We will now call the Ways and Means meeting for February 2nd to order. Sharita, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Davis. Alderman Vaccaro.
Present.
Alderwoman Howard.
Present.
Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderwoman Murphy.
Here.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Present.
Alderman Muhammad.
And I do think the idea that
Alderman Oldenburg.
might be
Here.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
here.
Chairman Balmer. Chairman Balmer, you're still muted.
My phone was ringing. Sorry, kid. Present.
Thank you. Alderwoman Davis.
Present.
Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderman Muhammad. Alderwoman Boyd. 8 present. Alderman Balmer, I'm sorry, you're muted.
My phone keeps ringing here. I'm trying to keep it quiet for you. I apologize. I'm in my office. With the quorum being present, we'll hold item 3, excuse Alderman until the end of the meeting. At that point, we'll move to item 4, approval of minutes. I'll move for approval of the minutes from January 26, 2021.
I'll make the motion. We approve the minutes.
Okay, entertain a second.
Second.
All right, Sharita, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Davis.
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderwoman Murphy.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad. Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Chairman Balmer.
Aye.
8 aye votes.
All right, thank you very much. With that, we've approved the minutes of January 26th. We have 2 items before us, and we will start off today with item number 2, which is Board Bill 28, Alderwoman Tyus. I believe she has a couple of speakers also, so Alderwoman, please proceed.
Good afternoon.
There we go, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for hearing this board bill. I think it's 228, not 28. Just want to make a correction.
No, yes, I apologize, I misspoke, 228.
Okay, I appear before you regarding Board Bill 28, being only one of 2 alder people that was here when this board bill was passed, and a lot of misinformation went into getting this board bill passed. I was one of 4 board members that did not vote for the original board bill. Board Bill 28 attempts to do a simple thing. It attempts to revoke the exemption that the city gave to the earning tax back in 2000, December 2000. And it simply states that is that we're repealing board ordinance 65094, removing an exemption on any income received by a person in the form or related to the grants, vesting, or exercise of stock options, performance shares, or performance-based stocks related incentive plans from the city's earning tax and containing an emergency clause. I appear before you seeking your support, and I do pass recommendation out to the full board to get rid of this ill-advised ordinance that we passed back in December 2000. A little background about this ordinance. Many companies had taken, there are only 2 cities in the Missouri state that have earnings tax. That's Kansas City and St. Louis. There has been an earning tax in St. Louis since, I believe, back in the 1940s. the courts, there are companies that have taken the city, both Kansas City and St. Louis, to court about the earnings tax. They have lost. Most recently, back in the 2000s, Ralston Purina took us to court because they didn't want to pay taxes on the dividends and the very exemption that they got under this board bill. They lost in court. They sued Ronald Leggett. They had a resounding loss. After that, the current mayor, who was then the alderperson, the new alderperson of the 28th Ward, came in with a board bill in September of 2000, Board Bill 172. And she came in with that. And not only that, RCGA and everybody said, oh, this will only cost the city a couple of $100,000. It won't cost you much. And we need this passed. And so they pushed this thing through. And the former ordinance, which was Ordinance 65094, was passed in December and signed in December 2000. And then in January 2001, just less than a month afterwards, it was reported that Ralston Purina was cashing out $118 million of stock options and restricted stocks. And so when they sold it, because we had this ordinance in place, the city lost almost $2 million, $1.77 million just on that transaction alone. So that was galling to me. As I said before, Alderman Kennedy voted no on this bill, 18th Ward. Alderman Conway, who is now the mayor's chief of staff, got on the floor and talked at length about how this was not a good board bill and that the numbers didn't make any sense to him as an accountant. He voted no. Alderman Shrewsbury of the 16th Ward voted no. And I, Alderwoman of the 20th Ward, we all voted no. We did not believe the numbers. And this was in December. In January, we were validated in showing that they were not good numbers and it was not fair. But they said, oh, this was a one-time thing and it will be fine. Since that time, it has not been a one-time thing. And we have continued to lose money on these kind of deals. I called Kansas City. They have never had an exemption such as this for stock options or anything like that. I'm sorry, I had a file that I wanted to present to you all. I misplaced it. I'm going to find it and send it anyway, but from Kansas City showing the kinds of monies that they were making with this thing not in effect there. So what I have been doing ever since I came back, like every year or so, I bring this up. So I want to thank the chair for hearing this board bill, because we are at a critical time in our budget with the city of St. Louis. We are taking war capital money, we're taking parks money, we're doing everything, but we're letting people who are wealthy keep money that we make people who are not wealthy pay. If you make 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, whatever dollars an hour, you have to pay the earnings tax. But we have carved out this wealthy earnings tax exemption that makes no sense and it's unfair. And so I don't know what year to year we would make, but if it's $500, it's $1,000, it's $2,000. As we get to look at the new budget that's going to come our way, it's going to be it was hard last year. It's going to be much harder this year. And so I think we need to start carving out every exemption we can find to the earnings tax. There are others that we give as rewards for development agreements, but we're not addressing those now. But there are other exemptions that need to be also taken back and not allowed to happen. But right now, I just want this ordinance, I want you to look at this particular ordinance, which is to right a wrong that was done in 2000 based on false numbers. And I seek your support in doing that. Mr. Chairman, would you like me to be able to let the two people that I have speak now, or?
Yes, are they here listed as speakers, or are they
Yes.
here to answer
Yes, they're
questions
here.
as professionals? Or they're here to speak? Okay, if they're here to speak, there's only two of them. I typically for public input we allow 3 minutes per speaker. If is that what you had in mind for this? Is this public input, or are they professionals?
You're the chair, whatever you say, I'm going along with.
I just didn't know if they're here to answer questions.
Well, they think they're professionals, but you're the chair, so I'm going to do whatever you say.
No worries. Well, if they're public speakers and are speaking in favor, We'll allow 3 minutes per speaker and let them give their actions, and we'll put it up to questions if any other members of the committee have questions of them. Number one is Kayla Reed. Kayla Reed, are you online with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
All right. What you will need to do is state your name for the record, and then we'll start the clock, and you're on.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Kayla Reed. I am a city resident and I am the executive director of Action St. Louis. It's a pleasure to be before this committee for something new, not the Close the Workhouse campaign, which you all know us well for. So thank you, Alderman Balmer, for allowing testimony. I rise today in support of Board Bill 28. Like Alderwoman Tyus, I agree that the exclusion of stock options and performance-based incentives from the earnings tax base is an injustice and is costing our city revenue that we desperately need. Last week, a coalition of over 30 organizations, including Action St. Louis, Jobs with Justice, Arch City Defenders, and others came together to endorse what we call the People's Plan for St. Louis. And one of those 4 pillars is about funding our future. The Funding Our Future pillar of the People's Plan is about creating a pathway for equitable taxation that brings more revenue into the city's budget to be allocated to our communities with hyper focus on the youth, the future of this region. Our analysis is grounded in the insight that our local tax structure is extremely regressive, meaning many residents of this community pay an outsized portion of their income in taxes, while our earnings tax structure permits carve-outs and benefits individuals with more wealth, with countless tax preferences. We support Board Bill 228 to increase revenue in our budget in order to fund this, the wraparound support for struggling families and communities, particularly for young people that will determine this region's future. This is an economic justice issue, which makes it a racial justice issue in St. Louis, and we believe this legislation moves us in the right direction. So we would like to rise in support of Board Bill 228, and thank Alderwoman Tyus for asking us to testify and as we support this initiative. Thank you, Alderman Balmer.
All right, thank you very much. And I'll just quickly, if anyone has any questions of Ms. Reed, please just raise your hand and we'll just take it that way. Do I see? I don't see any questions. So at that point, we will move on to speaker number 2. Thank you very much, and thank you for being so succinct. All right, Richard Von Glan are you here with us, Richard? I see you.
Yep.
Okay. Again, state your name for the record, and then once you get past that, we'll start the clock on you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman Vollmer. I appreciate the opportunity to address the committee. My name is Richard Von Glan. I have lived in the 15th Ward for about 15 years now, and I serve as the Policy Director of Missouri Jobs with Justice. So I think a lot of what has been said, we would sort of echo and say, me too. I think the origins of this that Alderwoman Tyus, I think, accurately laid out was really that this was a specific exemption that was really created for a specific company at a specific moment and has been used subsequently to really deprive the city of potentially millions of dollars that could be better spent through ward capital or as Ms. Reed suggested, in investing in the youth or other programs that I know you all debate every year in difficult budget situations. We would echo the concern that this exclusion really disproportionately and frankly almost exclusively benefits wealthy corporate executives, and the cost in terms of cuts to programs, whether it be, summer job corps or different programs that we've seen cut, almost disproportionately falls on working class and younger residents in the city. And that is a real concern. I would also say that Jobs with Justice for the last decade has been an enthusiastic defender of the earnings tax. We will continue to be a defender of the earnings tax. We think it is an equitable and fair way for the city to raise revenue, to provide valuable services that people who live and work in the city depend on. However, exemptions like this, were featured 5 years ago in the campaign to repeal the earnings tax. And we think exemptions like this always make that more difficult. We should have an earnings tax because it is fair. But every time you create exemptions to something that is fair, you provide ammunition to those that would seek to repeal that. And I think we all know how devastating that would be to the city of St. Louis. So we enthusiastically support Board Bill 228, and we thank the Alderwoman Tyus for continually raising this important issue and for your time today.
All right, thank you very much. Again, with anyone wants to raise a hand on the committee that has a question, Mr. Van Glan? All right, seeing none, I thank you very much for your input. At this point, we're going to go through the committee and have questions of the sponsor. Madam Vice, Alderman Davis, any questions of our sponsor of 228?
Just a couple of questions. I wanted to ask you, and I do understand.
Went back to mute.
We lost you there. Okay.
I know it just keeps popping out today. Am I back? Okay.
You're back. It's Groundhog Day. Watch it.
Okay. We do know that a lot of executives accrue their bonuses or whatever with stock options, and sometimes there are just so many millions that we can't count that they benefit from. But we also have the smaller people too that we have that I want to think about just for a moment. And I think about my dad when he retired, and the little bit that he had accrued, he put it away for his children when he passed. And it wasn't any kind of million, it wasn't, anything like that. So, and then I remember for myself, when I had to sell my stock to take care of my brother and my two sisters when my mom passed. So I was wondering, had you thought about
The groundhog attacked you again. There you go.
I went out again.
Yeah, we'll wait for you.
Okay. Did you I was wondering, did you think about a cap on it?
I think that's a wonderful idea. No, I didn't, but that's why we have all these heads here on the Ways and Means that you can put into it. I would be really open to saying if you make below a certain amount that you don't. I also never had a problem with people who don't make a certain amount of money per hour not paying it. Okay, so I
Right.
want to be fair. That's an excellent idea to me.
Yeah, I when I read it this morning, I thought about that, and we have a lot of people who they struggle, they save, they try to prepare for some kind of halfway decent retirement, and when you're talking about what is the cap that the president has now, I think his is 450, maybe for those different tax brackets for benefit.
Right.
And so if we looked at something like that, just to keep it in a level for normal people, is what I want to say. I think that could really help a lot of people and keep them in a quality of life that will help them too. So it's just a consideration, and I'll let you think about it as well as we're going through this committee. Okay?
Right. Thank you.
All right.
Anything else, Madam Vice? No?
No, sir, that's it.
All right, thank you very much. Alderman Vaccaro, any questions of the sponsor?
No, not really. Well, maybe one. So I guess I'm a little confused. So when somebody, I guess this doesn't affect anybody's pensions, I guess, as such. It would just be if you're paid in like a stock or something like that, it would, you don't pay the earnings tax on the stock.
Now you don't, but you did up until 2000, and you still do it in Kansas City. We passed that, and as I said before, when they came forth with it, because they had lost in court. I have the court case here, and I'll send it to everybody. It went all the way up to the Supreme Court of Missouri, and they said you absolutely have to pay on it. And so then they came, and the former Alderwoman from the 28th Ward, now the mayor, sponsored the bill, but it's a big to-do. I can send you all the I didn't want to put that all in your boxes because it was all written up. It's only going to be about $300,000 a year. And then just like less than a month later, it became this big deal with Ralston Farina, and we lost almost $2 million on one deal. So that was not kosher to me, and it was not fair. I'm not trying to get at little people, but that was a lot of money to lose in one city.
Right. It is.
Oops.
All right. Anything else, Alderman?
I don't know if it was me or Alderwoman Davis. No, I'm fine. I'm actually fine. I'm
Well,
fine.
that's good to hear.
Thank you.
All right. Alderwoman Hubbard, has Tamika joined us? Alderman for the fifth? No? All right. Alderwoman Murphy, you still here? I know she has to, there she are. Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Any
here.
questions or comments?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, I'm sorry. Carol, I ran right past you.
I was gone for a minute, but
Yeah, I didn't see you there.
I cut out for a minute.
You snuck away from me. All right,
It's okay. I'm
all
back.
right. Alderwoman
Um,
Howard, sorry, Beth.
I do have a question, and I like I said, I cut out for a minute. Maybe this was asked and answered, but I'm not sure. Do we have any idea of how much money this would accrue for additional revenue it would bring into the city?
We don't, because it depends on if somebody's doing stock options or not. But we also did not have the correct numbers when it was brought forth in the first place. We already know that $300,000 that they told us was false, okay? And I'm suspecting that they knew it when they told us, because less than a month later, here comes this $1.77 million of revenue that we lost just on one deal. I'm sorry, I have misplaced my file because I had got some kind of estimates. The city doesn't really track earning tax like that, but I had got some kind of estimates, and I got some from Kansas City. And I went downtown this morning. I'm looking for my file because I had gathered evidence for this.
That's
so
okay. I guess the other thing is how do we know when these are paid out? It's I guess it's reported to the IRS, and just the same way we know how much people earn.
Yes.
Okay. I think it'd be interesting to kind of get an idea of how much we would gain by this. And then I guess the other side of it is, we're not taxing many of our largest institutions because they're non-for-profits. And I'm not sure if we're unique in that here on this end of the state, or if Kansas City taxes their non-for-profits or not. But that's another thought. So, but as the Alderwoman from the 19th said, I would be interested in maybe capping it, over a certain amount, because like she said, people that save for retirement shouldn't be penalized if they're just getting by. So other than that, I have no more questions. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Alderman Howard. Sorry, I skipped over you there.
That's okay.
All right, it goes on my permanent record. All right, Alderwoman Murphy.
No, I said no questions. Mine was going to be what the Alderman from the 19th originally asked about the cap, because that was my concern too. And then I know one other time in Ways and Means it came up about the nonprofits. And I don't know about Kansas City either, but I think one of the things they brought up that perhaps we would do what they call the pilots, the payment in lieu of taxes, come to some sort of an agreement with the nonprofits. I remember that from a Ways and Means a couple of years ago. But no, this is very interesting. I wasn't here when they did the first one, and so I'm learning a lot right now. So, but I like what Alderwoman from the 19th said about some sort of caps.
Mr. Chairman, if the committee wishes, I can share. I have the long drawn out history of what happened. Like I said, I didn't really want to send the news articles and stuff. I actually did more of the research from Kansas City, because since that's the only other city in the Missouri area, Missouri that does that, I wanted to compare what they got, what kind of monies, because when I called to try to find out, we really don't track what the earnings tax is, but that doesn't mean we're not losing a lot of money. We just don't know. Okay. And my other thing is that and I will just say, if we're going to do that and say we don't want certain people to pay on the dividends, then I wish we would say, if you make below a certain amount of money, and I know people are not going to want to hear this, then you shouldn't have to pay earnings tax, or we give some kind of your earning tax rebate or something like that, because there are people struggling, and I'm not trying to get at struggling people. And actually, this doesn't help. We get tax dividends in our house. We get stock options. So, but that's not right. I can afford to pay my own taxes, and I should be able to pay, I should have to pay them. So that's not right. I'm not trying to get at people who are barely making it, and maybe those little tax dividends or stock options or whatever, maybe just what they have, just a little bit, and it makes them over. So I didn't think of it because I just have always looked at it that it was not even in effect, and that actually they went to court and lost the court case all the way up to Supreme Court. So I was just looking to put it back the way it was. But maybe a better thought from people who on this committee is that, yeah, do it, but say, hey, if you only make this much, we won't take that. So I have no, I'm not opposed to that at all.
All right, thank you very much. Alderwoman Spencer sent me a text. I think she had to bow out for a while. She had something come up. So we will move on to Alderman Muhammad has not joined us. At that point, it's Alderman Oldenburg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few comments, but maybe I'll go with some questions first. If the Alderwoman from the sponsor, will yield for some questions.
Certainly she will.
Exactly. I was waiting for you to say it was all right.
No, it's my committee. She has no choice.
That's correct. Well, yes, I do. I can say I don't know.
Good afternoon, Alderwoman.
Afternoon.
I appreciate you bringing this to the attention. Do you know how many Fortune 500 companies we have in St. Louis?
I don't.
Yeah. Well, in the region, we only have 9. And at one point we had, over 24. And I think, do you think some of the concern might be that with executives who make decisions on where the locus or where to domicile their national or global headquarters, do you think whether or not, and who largely executives get paid in the way of options or dividends for their salary, do you think that might bear, this potentially might bear an impact on where they decide to locate, as job creators and job centers?
It could, yes.
Yeah. And I appreciate that honesty, and I think it does. I think, and again, I think you were much closer to the actual details of the original ordinance at the time. And I would assume some of the argument was made that there's a lot of that was merger and acquisition time crazy in the economy. The late 90s, we saw a lot of banks buying one another. In fact, I think the chairman and executive Mark Twain Bank might have known a merger and acquisition was coming, and of course that would have resulted in a payment or an acceleration of options. And if lo and behold, Mark Twain decided to then change its headquarters to Clayton. So at the time that I think Mercantile absorbed Mark Twain, when those options were accelerated, we missed that opportunity. And I think that's evidence that, instinctually, that's how executives might function. Not all of them, of course, I'm generalizing, but I do worry about that as a concern in the global competitive environment we are with wanting to attract job creators, that the executives making the decision likely know, and site locators who are looking to find homes for these job creators certainly know where earnings taxes exist, and if there is an exemption to them, that if there's an exemption to them in terms of the dividends and stock options paid. Now, maybe the argument is, well, it's de minimis, the amount that's paid, and I don't know, because I think I'd rather have an employer come with 300, 400, 500 jobs and capture all those earnings taxes as opposed to what might be paid in a stock option or a salary. So, I mean, I don't think I'm vehemently opposed to some of this on maybe a couple of conditions. One would be really trying to at least understand or game the number that we think we could get annually. And maybe it is, okay, well, we'll accept up to this point, in addition to capping it on a per individual's filing of earnings. Maybe it's we earn up to this certain point of the earnings tax, and or this certain amount comes through, and then the rest is not needed. I don't know how that would work. I don't know if that'd be equitable at all. I'd have to think through that. And then my second reservation would be, I would like to kind of know where it goes and put it to some use that actually grows economic development. I'd rather put it to a funding of economic development rather than just swept into general revenue. I mean, I would like to commit to work with you if you'd be open to, maybe we can create a special fund, and so much a year gets captured and grows, and could go into a very favorable small interest lending platform for minorities and entrepreneurs of color to grow wealth. Something like that maybe aligns with our strategic economic development plan, as opposed to it just an unknown number that we have getting swept into general revenue and the like. So I would like to kind of be more strategic if we are going to entertain this, that it goes to a use like that. And I don't know if you'd be opposed to that or not, Alderwoman.
May I answer?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you didn't, I didn't, right. So first of all, so this is my problem. I don't have a problem with it. It doesn't have to be the way I want. My problem is that they tricked us to get it in the first place. I don't like people to trick me. Tell me the truth. If that's your argument, if you had been there, Alderman, and you had made the argument that you're making now, then that's one thing. But that is not what was done, okay? It was, and you have to admit that for them to make that argument and get it passed after they lost it in court, literally, the court was in May and it went up to the Missouri Supreme Court, and then it was denied August 29th. Then they trotted in here with a board bill by a new alderperson, because she was new at that time. And then you put misinformation. Make your argument. I have no problem with you making your argument, but you didn't make your argument. You told us it's only going to cost this amount of money. And so then it didn't, and you had to have known that this was coming up. So to make us lose $2 million right then and there, that's ridiculous right there for me. So I didn't look to try to put any restrictions on it, because I was putting it back where it came from in the first place. Okay, then if we want to do something, that's okay. And the current mayor, she's the person that sponsored it. I think it's very appropriate that she would have to deal with it before she leaves now. Okay, but if that's something you don't want to do, or this committee is not going to do, I can look at other ways. But for me,
Sure.
I can't look at it's because I was there and they lied to our faces. And so then for me to come back and put all these restraints on it, put it back where it came from, which was general revenue. The mayor's going to come with a budget, whoever's the new mayor. I don't know if I want to strap them with that. I like what you say, but that wasn't my intent. But I don't always have to get my original intent, because that's what, again, why we have all these people on the committee. So that's something I could look at, but that's nothing that can get done right now. We're at the end of the session. So if you are looking to do that, we don't have enough time. And I'm just looking, I'm trying to send a message, because we have to have, we keep coming with every 5 years, because there is an attack on our earnings tax. And, it's not just this one. We got the ones where we give for development, and all these things come right back out, and they keep putting it out there. And it looks unfair to people who don't make any money, or $5 or $7 or $10 or whatever they make. And then we're exempting this out. Okay. So if they want to come back and say, this is what we need, and this is the argument we're making, and even if you make it for them, but I tend not to hear you when you have lied to me. And I believe that was a lie. And I think it was by just putting out misinformation. And if it had been 8 months or a year later, but to have it less than a month after you said that, that was already in the works. And that galls me to this day, because that's $2 million. We could have, the programs that you're talking about, that $2 million would have been wonderful to be in a program.
Sure. Yeah, and I appreciate that, Alderwoman. I guess my motivation is really not out of revenge or spite, and I wasn't really there and understood the argument at the time, and the coincidental nature of the board bill after the court case. But I would commit to, and again, I know this may not be the thing you want to hear, but I would sort of commit to trying to work with you in next session on understanding exactly the order or the amount that this could yield or produce, and as well as being fair to some folks, that it's not hurting smaller companies, and that the use is strategic. Because I would agree, and just to say it out loud, the old way of economic development of, smokestack chasing, they call it, right? Which is, well, we just got to open up the doors for a Fortune 500 company to come here, and we just got to do whatever we can to get them. I think that's great if one of those companies wants to locate here. But I think if we're strategic with our economic development, which is adjacent to the economic development framework that exists, the equitable framework, it could be a good source of seed capital for those types of uses where we grow our own economic development talent. And we're not just, have the map open to try to, chase a smokestack, as they say. And I don't know if you'd entertain it, but what I will say is to the committee, I don't feel comfortable kind of, putting forward a bill out of, again, spite or revenge as a motivation, but I feel like the instincts here are correct. And I'd be willing to commit to work with the Alderwoman to put together something that could seed future economic development under this apparatus. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much.
Chairman, can I
Yes.
reply?
No, please do.
First of all, I take umbrage at spite or revenge. When people lie to you and mislead you and you hold them accountable, that is not spite and revenge. I am not a corporate shill that comes out and says, oh, whatever the corporations say, I don't believe in buck dancing for corporations. So when you characterize me as being spiteful and revengeful, that's your words, not anything that I said. I hold them accountable. If you tell me I'm going to pay you $15 an hour, and when I show up, you pay me 10, I'm going to hold you accountable for that. When you tell me that only you're going to lose $300,000, but I lose close to $2 million. Now, I don't know who calls that spiteful, because all of the people that I know would call that somebody didn't tell the truth and they need to be held accountable for it. So what I want to do is hold people accountable. If you're looking to work with me, then don't try to characterize my motives for anything. What they are is that they did not tell the truth. If that's spite and revenge, whenever you hold people accountable, then you can call me whatever you want to, because I am spiteful and revengeful for anybody who lies to me or lies on me. And so your characterization of my motives are yours and yours yourself. They have nothing to do with mine. Mine is about, this is not a good board bill for me, my house personally. Okay, this board bill is about fairness to people who don't make a lot of money, and they have to pay these earnings taxes. And then we have all this sympathy for these other people who do not pay it. So that is fine if you're not interested in my true motives, which is to make sure that we're going to have a budget that we can keep things in our communities that we already have, that we can make sure the people who need that money in the way of ward capital money, that we're not stealing ward capital money again and things like that, because my community needs that. They've already had $10 million stolen from them in ward capital money by moving just one ward from North St. Louis to South St. Louis. So I think your characterization is wrong. Is wrong-minded, and you really need to rethink what you're saying. And I am open, I said already, I was open to doing caps that would keep the money for it, so that smaller people who don't make a lot of money can keep it. But I'm not looking to shield for people who make a lot of money. And if that's their decision, they don't want to be in our community, then maybe they're not the good corporate sponsors that they always talk about being. I've been dealing with them a lot longer than you. I've been dealing with Civic Progress and the things that they said, and then what has happened over the years a lot longer than you. And so when I come before you and tell you about what's happening, this is not Sharon Tyus's word. You can do any kind of You can go and look up past records of what has happened. You could do research and you will find out exactly what I told you. In fact, I have it before you and I will send it to all these committee members. And when you read this, you cannot come to any conclusion except for that we were misled. And that is not fair to a city to pass exceptions for people based on untrue data. And then years later, when it was, this is 20 years later, we haven't done anything to address it. We have to address it, especially when we start to deal with our Ways and Means committee, and we have our new budget before us. And we need to find every way that we can to make sure that we have the money in our general revenue to try to address these issues. We're losing people who are supposed to work in parks. We're losing people who are supposed to do things. That today we were at parks and our park commissioner told us, not park commissioner, was she recreation commissioner of parks? One of them, Kim Hagley, talked about losing her person. It was parks. And that she's lost a technician, so we can't get our work done. We're upset about why we can't get the money that we spend. It's just sitting there not getting spent. I had millions of dollars that have been already directed at funds, but couldn't be spent because people didn't have the money. So these are things that have to go into general revenue also to pay our staff so that we are properly staffed. We are not properly staffed as a city. When I look at what we had when I came here and then what we have now, it is not fair to the people who serve us, and they get taken, we hold them accountable, but it's really not their fault. Forestry does a yeoman's job and they do triple what they are supposed to do. So mine is not revenge. Mine is a city budget that's reflective and has every dime in it that we can get. And if you told me something that wasn't true, then you ought to be glad to put it back. Nobody said, oh, we didn't tell the truth, so let me give you these $2 million back at 1.77. Nobody said that. Everybody was fine with it. But then if you want to characterize something as dishonest and manipulative, that's where the people who came and told us that it was only going to be $300,000. Sharon Tyus here today doesn't help me at all. It helps the people who don't have money. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, any questions or comments of the sponsor?
No, I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay. All right, what I've, it sounds like, and for the most part, that, you know, there's a wanting to do some adjustments to this as far as the cap being the first thing. And does this affect 401ks? I'm not aware of that as far as, you know, we've heard, you know, as far as people speaking for that and the not-for-profits, is there, that came up also. I would have loved to hear from somebody as far as a money person in regard to this, as far as numbers and doing some caps. I know we're on a time frame with the last meeting being Friday, but you know, and I would like to.
Mr. Chairman, this is your committee. I am fine. I will have this bill introduced the first thing in April when we come back. It is not a rush. We have to do it.
Yeah, we do that a lot.
So I appreciate it.
I really don't want to do that because
that's fine. I've introduced it before. You had the hearing. I appreciate that. I'm okay. Okay.
No, I want to. Yeah, well, this is a very good start for this, and I've been down here too many times on the floor with people trying to do. You know, we end up on the floor doing floor bills, and it's just a mess. I really like to. I think it's always best, and it makes us, you know, where we come in prepared. There's some very good ideas here as far as the caps and maybe and doing some things. So yeah, I would like to put a hold on this at this time and have you do that, because I've learned more today than I thought I knew about this, and I appreciate all your input and your time on this. And if you do have those other things from Kansas City, I wish you could send them to the members of the committee.
As soon as I find my file, okay? And in fact, they emailed them to me. So I actually have them. I will search my emails and get them. And I had told you I had some stuff that I didn't want to put all of that before the committee.
Sure, yeah. No, I appreciate this. This is a pretty complex matter. I would really like to get it right. It's, you know, every now and then we do you get things right down here.
I appreciate you having the hearing. That is always a first step. I'm fine with it being held. I will introduce it in April again. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
you actually made it in under an hour, as you didn't think you would.
Yes, I did. I told you I was. I actually didn't have, the two people that came to speak, actually, they had approached me about it. It's a
Okay.
very simple thing for me. So I appreciate the committee and
right.
yourself and the time that you spent. Thank you so much. I
As
appreciate
always, a pleasure. Thank you for your time.
it. Mhm.
Okay, with that, anyone here associated with 228, we're done with that. You're welcome to clock out. And anybody for Board Bill 167, Alderwoman Rice, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, and you have, I believe you didn't list any speakers today, but I believe Noel is your professional right-hand man on this still?
Yeah, he's my expert testimony, I guess.
Okay, all right, so if you, and you know the rules, Noel, if you have to speak, mention your name the first time you speak, sir, thank you.
Absolutely.
You have a committee substitute of some
Yeah.
300,
I-
300 pages still?
Well, yeah. So I would actually like to keep. So I know that I circulated the committee substitute, a new committee substitute as of yesterday.
Oh,
And
I guess we have to, okay, no, that's
well,
fine.
I actually don't want to put that in front of the committee.
Okay, all right.
So because what yesterday our attempt to do was to change the dates and then associated numbers according with that. But I would like to stick with the committees. So the board bill that's in front of the committee at the moment is Board Bill 167 committee substitute as of last week. So
Okay, all right.
With the April 1st closure date, and I want to apologize to Commissioner Glass. We had I was trying to communicate with him on where we were at on this, and just here in the last few minutes or so, we've made some adjustments. So
Okay. Now,
stick-
is Commissioner Glass here to speak on this, or just to answer, or how was your?
He's here. He is welcome. To speak on the bill. He and I had conversations over. We spoke last week, and part of the committee substitute in front that I had emailed yesterday was an attempt to account for some of his concerns, but we may need to do those in a different format. So I guess if I could just kind of back up and give an overview of where we are, could I do that?
That would be fine.
Okay, so at the moment, what is in front of the committee is Board Bill 167 committee substitute as the committee put in front of you last Tuesday. So we had this long hearing with an April 1st closure date, and that is, a new closure date past January 1st. What we are attempting to do here is show where in the budget monies would go in accordance with Ordinance 71217 if we were to move forward with this date. Per the committee's requests and conversations last week, I did speak with both Paul Payne and Commissioner Glass on some of their concerns, and I do have some amendments prepared that I can upload if we want to do those. To amend the bill that's in front of us at the moment to account for some of the concerns that Commissioner Glass spoke of. But I'm trying to kind of keep this as simple as possible, that we have a bill, we've had significant conversation around it, that we have directives. I did also hear from Alderman Muhammad. It doesn't look like he's on the call today, but with some, he reiterated his concerns about where we would potentially move detainees to. And I reassured him that we did have a 50-mile radius limit in the bill. And anyway, so there were several concerns. I will say a lot of the concerns that were brought to me were concerns with the underlying ordinance 71217 and the way that monies were directed to be allocated per that ordinance. And so it's not necessarily that this bill, particularly when it concerns the budget for next year, is in any way problematic. It's that the budget director doesn't like directing monies for the next year, but that all of those things will come through this committee next year as the budget process moves forward. So I wanted to allow Commissioner Glass the opportunity to speak to you all if you had questions for him on the underlying bill. I know that was a request of the committee. So if it's all right with you, Chairman Volmer, I think we can start there, and then I can come back if the committee has more questions for me, and we can potentially work on amendments if that's necessary.
Okay, I would like to hear from Commissioner Glass if he's so willing. I believe all the members of the committee would also. Commissioner Glass, just unmute yourself and introduce yourself, state your name, and you have some comment on this particular. I need to unmute.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I do have some general comments. And if there's been a change since this morning, I've not had an opportunity to see that. Just some basic issues that that concern me in the bill. One is the information about budget, and I'll just make a general statement. We have already begun that process for, I believe, the bill intends to refer to fiscal 22, which starts July 1. And so basically when I received the information from Paul Payne about what our budget should look like, which I have already received, I'll develop what is necessary to fully fund and or budget the division. And so that's my intent as it relates to budget. And of course, the process, well, they'll tell us what's possible and what's not. There was another note that I wanted to mention. I have, like I said, the bill from this morning. I could have cited page and line number, but I'll just speak in generalities. No one in a 50-mile radius at this point in time are interested in housing any of our prisoners. The other thing that I noted in the bill was the possibility of using a hotel. It's not possible for me to place the state's prisoners in a hotel. Might as well send them home. I don't think the court would support that, and it's beyond my jurisdiction, and there would be no way to provide the required security necessary to house detainees, state prisoners, in a hotel. Another thing I noted was there was a mention of about 3 different positions. I looked again to make sure in personnel department's classification specification, these positions don't exist, so I can't ask to fill them. In Exhibit B, there's reference to pretrial screening. That is a function of the court, and I'm pretty certain, but for sure, I don't have any input as to who they determine to remand to jail or not. So I think that's going to be kind of moot. It's up to the court to determine who they want to incarcerate. In the Exhibit C, which talks about testing and vaccinations, I'm not sure what that was getting at in terms of an RFP, but currently testing is free and vaccinations will be free. And we cannot force anybody, detainee or staff member, to take a test or vaccination. The other thing is that there was a time frame about they must be tested upon request by a certain time frame. We test them immediately upon request. Contact tracing, that's a function of the health department. I notify them of anybody that comes back positive, but in most cases when we do, they already are aware of who is positive because of the way the system is set up. But we do share that information. And then about the timeframes once a person becomes positive, it references something about testing them in 3 days. Well, we comply with CDC guidelines, and it does not indicate testing in 3 days. In fact, CDC had an addendum related to jails and prisons that would indicate after 14 days of a person being positive that you no longer quarantine or isolate. So we follow those guidelines with the assistance of our medical staff and the health department to try to be in compliance. Furthermore, in Exhibit C, it talks about detainee isolation process. One thing that I think it's very important to be aware of is that we cannot hold anyone beyond a release that's set by the court, be they positive or negative. Like any other medical situation with a person that's being released from jail, we try to place them. If they need hospitalization, they would leave us and go to hospitalization. Otherwise, they're released to home. And I'm not trying to be sarcastic, but I certainly don't want to be the city that detains people because they're positive for COVID. So absent a legal reason to detain a person and a court order to do so, we must release them regardless to their medical condition. And I indicated again, no one within 50 miles is currently interested. I don't know if that will change after COVID. COVID's a good reason not to be interested. But I think, as I mentioned to the other woman, one thing that will not change is we're one of the 3 largest jails in this state, and 50-mile radius would be a much smaller jail. They may not be able to accommodate us simply because of the sheer size of our jail. But at this point, no one is interested. See if there's anything else. I think that's pretty much it that I saw that kind of stuck out in terms of my concerns about what is in my jurisdiction, what is not, and what is doable from the standpoint of operating a jail or having custody of detainees.
All right, thank you, sir. What I'm going to do is open it up to questions from the committee. Madam Vice, any questions of Commissioner Glass?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Well, first of all, that was a lot of information that we probably need to listen to. I guess where I'm at right now is it sounds like this bill is trying to rewrite operations for the jail, which we really don't have the expertise to do, nor can we undo the restrictions that are required to operate a jail. So I'm a little confused. I don't like being confused because this is just too much. Obviously, Mr. Glass has guidelines that we must follow. There's no ifs and buts about that. And just because we pass a bill doesn't mean he can do it, because he would be in violation. So he can't do it, no matter what we do. He cannot do it. And then my question is, I know that there was a lot of concern, and I know there were a lot of speakers that talked about how inhumane the facility is. And I just wanted to ask Mr. Glass if he could give us some detailed information, because I know there was a couple of people that talked about when they were incarcerated. I think both of them were before 2010. And what exactly has been done, what part of the facility you use, and the number of beds that are required. When I want to talk about long range, because it doesn't look like our crime is trying to go down, so we might as well get prepared. So, sir, do you understand what I'm asking you to say?
I believe I do, and
Okay.
I'll try to respond, and then let me know if I haven't fully done so.
Okay.
The so I can't speak um, prior to 2012. That's when
Okay.
I arrived here.
Okay.
I was not happy with what I found. MSI was overcrowded and had been some neglect as it related to repairs and upgrades and all that kind of thing. So I attacked that immediately without citing everything that we did. Um, our main mission was to reduce population, and we've been quite successful with that. So we were able to close the part of the building to living that was built in 1966. We used the pods, which were, I can't think of the correct term right now, but it was like a prefab that were brought in and put together in 94, 95. People that were here longer than me will know the exact year, but somewhere around there, which is consistent with other jails in Missouri in terms of how old it is. In fact, as I pointed out to Alderwoman Davis, it's only 6 years older than the county jail. So that's where the detainees reside. The last meeting, someone said something about the roof leaking. The roof does not leak. I replaced the entire roof on both the old section and the new section. I replaced all the heat and air in both old and new. The portion where the inmates actually reside, it's always had air conditioning, never been without. And we have remodeled the bathrooms, the floors, the ceilings, remodeled the rooms of all the pods, and did some of the infrastructure work as well that we were aware of and that BPS was able to point out to us. So that's the building that we have now. The things that they talk about many years ago, I cannot speak to. Is it possible someone didn't follow my rules during my tenure? That's possible. But the ones that don't treat people with respect and follow the rules no longer work for the city of St. Louis. So that's what we have at MSI. And a number of our staff that work there, and as well as here, have become nationally certified to work in jails, which did not exist prior to my arrival. So I hear what people say, but they're just not the state of the jail today.
Well, that I know about the remodeling because I was in there during it and after it, and I had a chance to watch all of that happen. And it's the design is good, quality material was used, and I do know that the inmates appreciate it with the new showers and everything. So it's really a shame that people really don't take the opportunity to go and see what's really there. Uh, I do know that, as you said, some years ago, there was some problems, and nobody's denying that. But I know I've been in there for a number of different events, everything. I never felt afraid. It was clean. All the inmates were courteous. The workers were courteous. And we just need to figure some things out, okay? But I don't think us trying to not work with you, the expert, is going to get us what we're trying to do. And so I appreciate you working on the plan because we do want a plan. And all of us have been talking about this for a while, how we could retool once we got down to a certain number of inmates where we could provide some on-site training for jobs, all kinds of things. We've been talking about that. So there's a lot of things that can be done, but I don't think this bill is going to do anything to help with a plan or move forward.
Alderwoman Davis, if I may add also, this is kind of difficult for me because I support addressing the issue of mass incarceration.
Mhm.
Have been doing it for many years. The only thing that I'm trying to say to the city, and they do what they will, is that we are not in a position at this point in time to disregard and not use MSI. That fact will never change given the current circumstances and situation. In my initial report, I indicated that there are a number of things that affect population that change based on legislation, laws that are passed, what is viewed as a felony versus a misdemeanor, new initiatives. And I track that to be prepared for what we need. As I indicated on more than one occasion, the new initiative of having funds for people that come forward and tell what they know about crime, particularly murders. If we are anticipating to improve our clearance rate by 60%, we're going to need a significant number of beds. My only hope is that we don't find ourselves without a place to accommodate. That's my concern. I mean, I can deal with the comments about what the place looks like, and because I know it's not true. And several older people have been there and seen for themselves. But what I am concerned about is the safety and security of both the facility, the residents, the staff, and the community. And so that's my reservations going into this issue.
Well, I guess my last question is, as we continue to work on the plan, I would hope that people could come together with because they don't even realize the knowledge that you and what's the gentleman's name at MSI?
Superintendent Carson.
Superintendent Carson has. You've worked on every level of government dealing with federal prisons, state, local, different types of incarcerations for rehabilitation centers. I mean, you have a wealth of information, and we are really in a good position to do some good things if we all would sit down and work together. It is unfortunate that COVID has come in and changed everything. And it's very unfortunate that our murder rate and everything has gone up. We unfortunately are going to have more prisoners for a moment than we want to have. The court system slowed down, so we couldn't even get as many of them out as we wanted to. It's just a lot of things that you can't just be stuck and say, I don't care, just do what I said do, because you have a lot of circumstances right now. But we can still work on the plan because we know some things that we know could work. And I appreciate the fact that you are still working on the plan. You have not stopped. So that I want to thank you for. But Mr. Chairman, that's all. I just wanted to get a better understanding of where we are now.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Vice. Alderman Vaccaro, any questions of Commissioner Glass?
Is it just Commissioner Glass, or are we overall on the bill right now?
I didn't understand you.
No, I mean, I say, is it just questions of Commissioner Glass, or are
Go,
we
Commissioner.
discussing the bill?
Well, yeah, as it goes to,
Well, I mean, here,
if
I
your
mean,
question's out of line, we'll know. I'll let you know.
okay.
But he's a.
You can slow me down if my question's out of line. Because it's just more of a statement, because we keep hearing, and I've been on Ways and Means now for 12 years. And when it comes to the budget, all we can do is recommend and send back to E&A. We don't have the authority to do this, to change, even when we're doing board bill number 1, which is the budget, we have to reconcile that budget with E&A. I mean, it just seems like, to me, whether we're for or against this bill isn't even going to be the question. It just seems like the timing is all wrong. That we're going to be redoing the budget in roughly 2 months, and even at this, and maybe I'm wrong again, but I don't believe so because I checked. We have to just send something back to E&A. E&A has to go with us, and then we have to agree on the budget. You know, we have to agree, E&A and us have to agree on the budget. And I don't even see, even if we voted on this, that it would make a whole lot of difference. I mean, it just doesn't seem to me like there's enough time to do this. And it's been explained to us multiple times. So if I'm out of order, just let me know. But I don't understand why we keep going through the same thing when we don't have the authority to close the workhouse. The Board of Aldermen doesn't have the authority to make change. Even Paul Payne said that the other day, but we don't have that authority. So I don't even understand why we're back here even discussing it. And I know everybody will beat me up on Facebook, but we don't have that authority. And if somebody can get Lou Galley or somebody on here to tell me otherwise, that's been my understanding for the last 12 years. So I'm just going to kind of listen, but I don't think we have that authority.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, and Alderwoman Howard, who I skipped over before, I don't think she's with us any longer. I don't see Carol here anywhere. We've lost Carol. Okay, Alderwoman Hubbard is not here. Alderwoman Murphy, any questions or comments of Commissioner Glass?
Yes, I have a question before I have to go. I guess for Mr. Glass, is it possible that we, myself, maybe others, could actually visit the MSI? I know with this COVID going on that it's, you know, I would personally just like to see it for myself before I make any decisions, and would perhaps want to know where the inmates were going to go if that did happen. And so I'd have a comparison is what I'm trying to say. I don't know if it would be allowed or not. So that would be my question. I feel like I need more information is where I'm at with this. I know what we want to do. I think we all want to do the same thing, but I want to do it fair and equitably for the people involved in MSI and the citizens in general. So anyway, that's my question. I'm sorry to go on.
There are, in the report online, there are some pictures of MSI as it looks today. And in reference to a tour, my last conversation with the director indicates that tours must be approved through him at this point in time because of COVID.
Right, I understand, yeah. And that I just feel, I think I would feel more comfortable never having been in there. Recently, I don't think I would, if I was offered the opportunity, I missed it. So I would like to see it firsthand. And so perhaps I will inquire about that. So thank you, Mr. Glass, thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderwoman Murphy. Alderwoman Spencer, I've seen you pop in and out. Are you with us again? Apparently she's not with us currently. All right. Alderman Muhammad is not present. Alderman Oldenburg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure where, my colleagues on this committee are, but I feel that from a supplemental appropriation and a budget perspective, this is a little unusual and potentially reckless. Additionally, I think from a health perspective, it's completely unsafe as well. So, I don't want to belabor the point, but if the sponsor wants this to be a vote today, I'll be voting no.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Alderman Clark Hubbard.
I don't have any questions at this time. I say it all the time. Everybody knows where I stand and how I want to work to do exactly what Commissioner Glass said, to be in a position to do some changes and some reform to this whole system and at some point get this closed. So everybody knows, I know Alderman Oldenburg asked where I'm only saying it because he said where people stand. Everybody knows where I stand. I would want to close. I would have been a yes today. But I want to make sure that it's done in a way that's conducive for all parties involved. I'm concerned. The only concern I had, the biggest concern rather I had was the 50-mile radius. I just hope that we can get that worked out, especially with people I know that would adversely affect. But I just feel like I know that we can work to get that changed too for the betterment. And again, it's always for me not looking for a way to incarcerate more, but to be on the front end to have them not incarcerated at all. So I don't have any real questions on that. Just know that I'm still here, still in the same position, still ready to work to get the workhouse closed. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And if I'm noticing, Alderwoman Murphy had to leave. Alderman Spencer, are you back with us? I see your picture, because currently we do not have a quorum. Is that correct, Sharita? Without Alderman Spencer, we only have 5. I see myself, Madam Vice, Alderman Vaccaro, Alderman Oldenburg, and Alderman Clark Hubbard.
We can do a quorum call.
I see Alderman Spencer's
Yeah, we need at least 7.
7.
Mhm.
Okay, so we are unable to take a vote at this time, and we can do a quorum call if we want to make sure someone's hiding or not electronically. But we have lost Alderwoman Rice. We don't have enough members to take a vote at this time.
Mr. Chairman, could I respond to some things and potentially ask some questions of Mr. Glass, just so we have some things on the record?
Certainly you may. Commissioner Glass, if you're open to questions, go ahead, proceed, Alderwoman.
Great, thank you so much. And again, thank you for being here. I know you had to move some things around to be here today. I do appreciate your willingness to take phone calls anytime about this and to communicate some things with me here in this past week. We did have some kind of follow-up questions. You and I had spoken about what, the COVID precautions and things like that. And we did have an amendment worked up to kind of take out hotels as an option. We have those things prepared to make the bill a bit better here. But what we're looking for, is that April 1st date that we would be able to hopefully have some contracts in place for. But just a couple of questions really quickly about current conditions in there. First of all, so on vaccinations, are you being given any indication as to whether or not, like, what timeline detainees might be able to access vaccines?
No.
Nothing at all yet?
Nothing.
Okay. And then
that is, I would like to see that happen as soon as possible.
Right. I agree. And I know that Director Edwards also indicated that he wanted detainees vaccinated at the same time as staff. And you and I discussed that is, we detain people because they're accused of crimes. They're not in detention to get sick. That's not a part of the judgment against them. And our job is to care for them as best as possible. So I know we share that goal of keeping people healthy in the facilities. So we have gotten some reports about temperatures dropping pretty low in MSI overnight right now as the temperatures outside are dropping. Do you happen to have the data on what the temperatures in and I think Unit 3 was particularly one that was noted as an issue that gets very, very cold at night right now.
So I struggle with trying to respond to that. I mean, my staff at one end of the hall told me it's hot, and at the other end of the hall, they're cold. That's a normal occurrence. We have a new system. That system is set at 72 degrees. There may be a place in the building that's cooler. There may be a place in the building that's warmer, but the system is working fine.
Okay. And then I guess I know that is there video conferencing capability for detainees in MSI to talk to attorneys or family at this point?
No, there is only, I hesitate only because there is some Polycom. I'm not familiar with that process, but there is a video connection to the courts directly.
Okay.
However, we do not have video conferencing. Jails typically don't have Wi-Fi access for the prisoners or detainees. So that is true. And so when we were sending people home because of COVID, the non-essential workers, a lot of our staff had to become essential because the attorneys no longer would come in. So they had to make themselves available to process phone calls.
Okay. So if we were potentially wondering about a video tour of the building or video conferences with detainees in who could, even testify in a committee meeting, for example, would that be possible?
I'm not the most technically savvy person. I don't know that would be possible for the interview portion.
Okay, that's okay. I appreciate it. It's kind of an idea that I know the health committee has been tossing back and forth as well. But I guess,
if I may, Alderwoman, I'm presenting data and facts that help drive the decision. An individual's opinion or what they say won't change the data and facts. There's not, during my almost in excess of 37, close to 40 years in criminal justice, there's only been a handful of people that actually wanted to be in jail. And so that drives a lot of the conversation. And so you might be surprised that I have run across a few that want to be in jail. But that's another whole issue. But I mean, if there's a way to make that happen, it won't change the information that I present. So.
Sure. Yeah. And I understand that. There's a balance here between centering the folks who are detained in the facilities, those who are just as involved and their experiences, and how that actually reflects on our ability as a city to take care of them. And I know you and I have also discussed the efforts that you have undertaken to keep the numbers of folks in our detention facilities low. Right, we're trying to not detain as many people. We're not even building jails anymore to the type of long-term detention that we used to. And that's the overarching theme here, is that we can better serve human beings in our city in other ways than necessarily detention. Are there some that pretrial do need to be kept confined so that they are not a danger to the community? Of course. But for those who are not, those that we can reach with other social services, and that we can provide safe and healthy places for them to stay while we're awaiting, hopefully, a speedy trial. That is the goal here. I guess just
so
one.
If I followed that logic, what I would indicate is that closing MSI doesn't address that issue at all. That issue remains in the court. The court determines who comes in. Even I would offer a caution that if we reduce the number of beds we have, it will not impact in any way the number of people the court determines to incarcerate. It'll just make it more difficult to do so.
Sure. And I think part of what is lost in this conversation is that we are attempting to reallocate funding so that we can better address people's needs. We can better address pretrial, and part of that is moving that to the health department, so that we have a public health focus on assessing people as they come into the facility. So while it is true that the courts have final control over who is detained, we want to better allocate funding so that we can care for folks and continue to reduce that number of people going in. So I guess the last question I had is, if this bill doesn't work, then what is the plan to close the workhouse?
So that question assumes that I think it's a wise decision to do so. At this point in time, I do not. I would not advise that, because the number of commitments to the jail will exceed the number of operational beds that the city has available. It has to be a long-range plan, and to work on it 2 or 3 years is no time at all. Not enough time to accomplish that task. I think that what I indicated on a number of occasions is that perhaps the city finds itself in a position where you must do both. You must find yourself incarcerating people as well as developing those programs to resist, reverse, and change the need to incarcerate people. When you do that, it won't be a matter of discussion. You won't have anybody to put in the jail. It's sort of like, you know, it's interesting to me, and I'll abridge my comment, but I would say in the 80s, we defund, in the vernacular of today, we defund mental health treatment. We defund the mental health facilities. Then we saw people sleeping on the streets. Then we employed the only institution we had to address it, the police. Go arrest that person who thinks the alley is their bathroom. And then we turned them over to the courts, the jails, the prisons. And then we got upset because they did not have the specialists to address the mental health needs of the individual. Now we want to reverse that. You had a process getting us here. You have to have a process to reverse that. You can't just say, close the jail and therefore we won't lock people up.
Right.
There's work we got to do. I think, again, if Missouri would look at what is a felony versus what is a misdemeanor, you'll address this issue in a big way.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, okay, I mean, I'm just saying that I just can offer you a realistic approach, having been at this for 40 years, all across the various tasks and jobs.
Yeah, I understand. And Mr. Chairman, I know we have lost even more committee members, it looks like,
Yes.
at this point. So if I could just close, since it looks like this is stopping here for this session, I do want to thank you all for continuing to engage with the Close the Workhouse movements, with the ideas, with the decarceration that we are trying to do in the city of St. Louis. As Mr. Glass just iterated, right, we moved as a country into an arrest and incarcerate model that did not serve our citizens. It is not in service of our citizens that we have neglected mental health care, that we have neglected substance abuse, that we have neglected people's housing situations when they have nowhere else to go. Our job as aldermen, is we are representing the people, is to continue to shift us out of those failed models of arrest and incarcerate. Mass detention doesn't work. Mass incarceration does not work. It does not serve us. It has hurt our city. And so I would encourage the committee, as you look towards the budget for fiscal year 22, if you're still on this committee, and if Mr. Chairman still wants to head this up next year, just please keep this in mind. Keep this in mind, that the city of St. Louis is ready to shift funding to better care for our citizens. And I thank you all for the conversation, for the ability to hear out constituents last week, and we'll keep at this. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Alderwoman. Commissioner Glass, thank you very much for today, and thank you for all your years of service. We definitely appreciate it. You're a font of knowledge that I lean upon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everyone else, thank you for your time. We do not have a quorum, so at this point, I will excuse. I'm sorry. Someone say something? Okay. We'll excuse the absent alderman for necessary absence. And at that point, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Entertain a second. Are there enough of us here to second?
Second.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Happy Groundhog Day. And that doesn't mean we're going to do this all over again in the morning.
That's true. All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.